Mayor Mahan, we talked about the opposition to this initiative that you're pushing. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But for our statewide audience, there's a lot going on politically. They might not be dialed into these ballot measures right now. What is your pitch to the voters of California watching this show? Why do you think they should vote yes on 36?
Well, Nikki, thanks for having me. Californians can see with their own two eyes that we have intertwined crises of homelessness, untreated addiction, retail theft, and they're looking for answers. We need tools to get people into treatment and to hold repeat retail theft offenders accountable for their crime. Prop 36 is that measure. It doesn't return us to the era of mass incarceration. It gives us a chance to get to the era of mass treatment, and it brings back the accountability, the tools that judges need to hold people accountable that we lost under Prop 47. Since Prop 47 passed, homelessness is up nearly 60%. Overdoses have skyrocketed to now be the leading cause of death for Californians from the ages of 18 to 45. And we've seen rising retail theft that's driving small businesses out of our state. We need solutions. Prop 36 is a step in the right direction.
All right, so I mentioned the opposition to this. One of those folks is Governor Newsom, and I spoke with him at the Democratic National Convention. I asked him specifically about this. Here's what he had to say, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Wrong. I'm not for mass incarceration. I'm not for a war on drugs. I'm not for the failed policies of the 80s. They're doubling down on the failed policy of the 80s, and they're lying to people that we're going to have mass treatment. I mean, there's 22 counties in California out of 58 counties. 22 of them don't even have one residential treatment slot. And they're talking about mass treatment on demand. It's delusional. And so with respect, I think it's more of a political positioning than it is good public policy. This Prop 36 is pure drug reform, and it sets us back by decades. And I'll tell you, as a Democrat, to your point about being a Democrat, I'd be ashamed to be going back to the war on drugs that disproportionately impacted African Americans and Latinos. I mean it. And I say that as someone that respects and likes those mayors. I pray that they do the right thing and are on the right side of history and walk away from this initiative.
Okay, so for some context there, when I asked him the question, I said, look, you have some mayors who are for this. And he said, yeah, a couple of mayors. I said, Democratic mayors, you know, from large cities, San Francisco, San Jose, San Diego. So what's your reaction to that? He said it was political positioning, and he called for you guys to walk away from this. Is there any chance any of that will happen? And is it political positioning?
No, we need these tools. And look, I stood side by side with the governor in the primary supporting Proposition 1. He asked us to stand with him on that measure. And the promise of Prop 1, which the voters just passed, is that it will add 10,000 treatment beds in the state of California. The campaign was treatment, not tents. And I agree with the governor on that. I agree with him that we need more accountability for getting people out of these unsafe encampments, off the streets, into shelter and treatment. With Prop 1, we have the resources to add 10,000 plus treatment beds. We also need the tools to mandate treatment. The truth is, and it may be an uncomfortable truth, but when people are stuck on our streets in a cycle of severe addiction, addicted to substances like fentanyl and methamphetamine, we need to be able to compel them into treatment. They're not always going to say yes, but we will save lives, and we will reduce homelessness, reduce crime, and make our communities safer and better for everyone if we embrace treatment. That's what Prop 36 does. It gives judges a tool for repeat drug offenders. On the third offense, people have a choice: treatment or county jail. I think that's what we're going to need to get out of this crisis.
So I want to ask you about Prop 1 because that passed it was on the March primary ballot. And that was, you mentioned standing side by side with the governor. That was his passion project for that election, and it narrowly passed. And it's really the first time since he's been governor that the voters have said, wait a minute, we don't know if we're all in on this with you. Are you concerned that the governor is going to be staunchly against this and he's going to go campaign against it? How do you feel like that? Do you feel like that hurts your chances? Are you concerned about that?
I think people are looking for solutions and understand that Prop 36 is an incremental step. It's not a return to the era of mass incarceration. It's an additional tool for judges that can lead us to an era of mass treatment. The governor and I have supported him in saying we need to build the 10,000 treatment beds. Now we have the resources to do that. He said we need to clear the encampments. The Supreme Court has given us clarity that we are able to do that. We're doing those things in our cities. But those of us in local, nonpartisan office who are at the ground level every day, talking to our outreach workers, our police officers, and small business owners, we know that without tools to mandate treatment, those other two things aren't sufficient. You can't just build some treatment beds and clear encampments. We're going to need to be able to get repeat offenders into treatment and have consequences for repeat retail theft. That's all this measure does. It's what Californians are demanding. Public safety shouldn't be a partisan issue. And I think you're going to find in November, this measure is going to pass because it's not a partisan issue. You're going to see Democrats, Republicans, and independents rally around reform of Prop 47.
So you're not concerned the governor's against it and is going to come out hard, swinging?
Look, we'll make our arguments as a local elected, as a mayor of a big and diverse city in a nonpartisan office. I'm going to just stick to the issues that I know, that I see every single day, tell the stories of my residents, and explain why I think we need this tool. And at the end of the day, it's up to the collective wisdom of the voters. And I trust the process, and I think the voters are going to embrace this.
Okay, so I want to ask you too, just about cost. The Legislative Analyst Office, the nonpartisan Legislative Analyst Office, released a report on this, and there has been a lot of discussion about how much money California has spent in terms of especially the homelessness aspect of this. And you talk about the treatment, especially with folks who are addicted to drugs, and that's what we see on our streets in these encampments too. And so the LAO talks about some of the fiscal effects that this could potentially have: increase in state prison populations, increase in state court workload. In total, Prop 36 would increase state criminal justice costs, likely ranging from several tens of millions of dollars to the low hundreds of millions of dollars each year. Obviously, this is just a snapshot here, and this is their proposed outlook. What do you say to that?
Well, Nikki, now I think you hit on where most of the opposition is coming from, and that opposition is coming from Sacramento, I think largely because of concerns about the fiscal outlook over the next couple of years. And I think we should be clear about that. My view is that the most costly thing we can do is allow the status quo to persist. We spend over $50,000 per person per year for each homeless individual on our streets, just managing symptoms of homelessness. That's emergency room visits, emergency response out in the field, trash pickup, responding to fires and other issues in encampments. It's extremely costly to lose tourism, to lose businesses. I don't think we're really taking into account the full costs of these interlocking issues of unsheltered homelessness, untreated addiction, and rising retail theft. So in the long run, we're going to save money and save lives by getting people into treatment. I'll also just note for the record here for your audience, when we talk about tens of millions of dollars, maybe $100 million, we have a $300 billion state budget. That is a rounding error. If we can't prioritize investments in getting people into treatment, reducing homelessness, and keeping our communities safe, then I think we need to re-examine our priorities.
San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan, we appreciate your time here on Inside California Politics on this very complex issue. I really hope you would come back and continue this discussion, because a lot to educate our viewers on as we head into the November election.
Absolutely. Would love to do that, Nikki. Thank you.